Hi, it's Dr. Maya. Thank you so much for connecting with me today. This is going to be a good one. Hopefully, you've been following me, you've been listening to these talks, you've been watching these videos. I sincerely hope that they have been so helpful to you, so beneficial. As I say, so often, I am not doing this just to be doing it. I'm doing this because I believe it is so important for you and for me as we are on this journey to our next, and the next after that, and the next after that. And we will just keep growing and keep evolving together. Most of you, I'm sure, know already that I'm a board certified OBGYN. I'm an author. I have a book available out now on Amazon. I'm a single mother. I have a beautiful daughter, singer and songwriter. And I always say that because it is so important how we define ourselves, how we view ourselves. Listen, the world will be happy to slap a label on you and to place limitations on you and how far you can go, what you can reach for. I don't believe that is what we are here to do, to allow our environment to limit us and to set boundaries. I believe, in fact, we are here to expand our boundaries and extend as far as we can go, to literally just empty out every morsel of potential that we were created with. A large part of that, though, will come from our story. Today, we're talking about remember your story. What is a story? One definition, how we can define a story, an accounting of, the past events of someone's life, or even an accounting or a tale of the evolution of something or someone, right? What's more important, though, than that definition is how do you view your story? What is your story? What is my story? And why is it important? And how does that impact where I'm going? Today, that's what we're going to focus on. Our story is more than just an accounting of events. Because when you take a closer look at your story, when I take a closer look at my story that's been evolving year after year, decade after decade, if you look closer, you're going to see more than just a tale being told, right? More than just a timeline of events. You're actually going to see the building blocks to your purpose, to your destiny. Who were you created to be? Where are you going? Where are you headed? What are you dreaming about? All of these things are actually hidden within our respective stories. Our stories, if you look at that timeline, are comprised of our past, our present, and our future. We all know that, right? So when we talk about our past, what are we really talking about in the context of our story? What we're talking about are those experiences, right? Especially those that are vivid still, in our mind, in our memory. We're talking about choices that we had and decisions that we made, how we view those decisions that we made. We're talking about lessons that we learned. We're talking about victories that we won. We're talking about battles that we lost. We're talking about failure as we may perceive it, right? We're talking about maybe even in some cases unfair circumstances that we found ourselves in, or unfair predicaments, or things that happened to us that were beyond our control. All of these things come together and form that past bubble of our story. When we look at the present in contrast, we're saying, well, this is where I find myself now. This is where I am today. And not only where do I find myself, but how I view myself. Because now in the present, we not only see where we are, but we're looking at that in the context of where we've been. So this becomes a bit more complex in the present. And to make it even more complex, we're not only sitting here in the present, we're also thinking about where we're going all at the same time. What am I dreaming about? What do I have to do today? What am I dreaming about doing tomorrow? What is calling to me from deep, deep, deep inside of me? Where have I not yet been? What territories have I not taken? What things have I not yet learned? What people have I not yet met? What connections have I not yet made? What impact, what influence am I destined to have and to make in this earth, in this life? All of that is going on in our present, right? So we've got our past bubble, we've got this complex present bubble that's being impacted by our past, what we have to do literally right now, and then what we're looking forward to in the future. Okay, then we have that future bubble. We cannot predict what is to come, right? We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't know what's going to happen 5 minutes from now, right? But in the context of what we're talking about, and remember your story, I'm not thinking about the future as something that is ambiguous, something that is just wow, this undiscernible time and space. No, I'm talking about what is your next. There are some things, in fact, let me say this, there are many things, in fact, let me say probably most things, right, that are part of our future that we don't know, we can't dictate, we can't foresee. What we do know is that there's something calling to each one of us. If you are listening, if you are paying attention, if you are a planner, if you are a dreamer, if you believe that you are called to more than you are having an experience of right now today. And let me tell you, I'm certain of that if you're keying into talks like this with me and with many others and other resources out there that are available. I know that you believe that there is more. And we have to look at our story as a combination of our past, our present, and our future. And as I say, not the ambiguous future, the next, that next thing that's on your list, that next dream, that drive, what's driving you, that next big goal, that next big step that you're going to take. We are not made up of a single moment in time or even a single season. Let me tell you why this is so important to understand. We are the sum total of our entire story. This means that we haven't even discovered the whole of who we are yet. And not only that, here's something I want to say to encourage you. Whatever you're facing right now today, whatever challenges, whatever struggles, right, whatever problems yet to be solved, whatever pressure you're feeling, we've talked a lot about pressure. Whatever you're dealing with now, especially if you are transitioning into your next, we know that those things are happening, right? We talked about in the previous talk navigating those tight spaces. Regardless of what you are experiencing now, remembering that your story is not what's being played out today in this moment. Your story is actually also what's coming tomorrow and what's next. And that's so important. It's something that we have to remind ourselves about and encourage ourselves about, especially when we're in the heat of pressure, in the heat of transition, in the heat of opposition and challenge as we're trying to make those next moves. We're trying to figure out how to make A plus B equals C, right? Keeping in mind that I am not defined by what's happening right now. No, I'm much bigger. My story is about 10 years ago. My story is about right now today. My story is about the impact that I'm designed to have in the very near future if I can hold on, if I don't give up, and if I can remember my story. Okay, so believe it or not, that was just the intro. So there are so many things that I want to say about remembering our story. But there are three major points that I want to make. Okay. As we are shifting into new territories and new seasons and new opportunities and new arenas and new perspectives, remembering your story, as I say, is not just a mere accounting of events. Believe it or not, your story is actually fuel for your destiny. Okay. Your story, let me say again, is actual fuel for your destiny. Let me explain how important remembering your story is to you getting from your now to your next, as you hear me say so often. I'm going to do that in 3 points. Number one, your story, my story, acts as a shield, a stabilizer, and a faith amplifier. Okay, let me explain what I mean. Your story, my story, a shield, a stabilizer, and a faith amplifier. That's the first point. What do I mean by that? Well, because when the heat is on, when the pressure is on, when opposition comes, remembering your story, remembering that, again, you're the sum total of your past, present, and future, not just the immediate challenge that you're facing right now, right? The immediate crisis, the trauma, the devastation, the setback. We could go on for hours about setbacks. When these things occur, remembering your story, number one, you can talk back to the opposition, to these challenges, right? And you can tell these challenges, don't forget my story. Don't forget where I've been. Don't forget what I've overcome and how I even got to this point. Yes, I'm standing in water. I feel like it's neck deep. But don't forget the last thing I overcame. You have to remember your story and you have to tell your story, and you tell your opposition and your challenges your story. Okay, that's one point. The second point is this: you are reminding yourself of who you are becoming when you remember your story, the sum total of it. And that's how your story acts as a faith amplifier, right? Because when you are starting to feel a little discouraged, a little overwhelmed, frustrated, it is remembering, I am not who I am, what I see, what I'm facing right now today. That is not all of who I am. That's not the sum total. No, no. I am also made up of all of that that's coming in the future. And that's going to help to build your faith, to gird your faith, to amplify your faith in those moments where you are feeling at your lowest. And believe me, if you are honest, if I am honest, on this journey, we arrive at very low points. We can call them valleys, we can call them whatever you like. We find ourselves in low points. It's a part of our journey, respectively, altogether. But it is remembering your story that will help to amplify your faith and help you through this part, your present, as you're moving to your future. Okay, so we talked about number one, how your story and remembering your story can act as a shield in times of opposition and challenge. It can act as a stabilizer when things feel a little bit shaky, right? It acts as a faith amplifier, and you have to tell your challenges your story and you remind yourself of your story. The second point I'm going to spend a little bit more time on. Your story also acts as a compass to help direct your path towards your destiny. Okay, let me say that again. Your story acts as a compass, a directive, a navigator to help direct your path towards your destiny. Because we remember that our story is not just what we've lived out in the past leading up to this moment. Perhaps more importantly, we're looking at our story as the one that's yet untold. It's the one that's unfolding minute by minute, day by day, month by month, year by year, as we're moving and pushing towards those dreams, those goals, that next version of us, that wholeness, whatever it is that you're working towards, whatever it is you're dreaming about, maybe verbally, maybe secretly. We are drawn to certain things that are clues, right, to our future and our destiny. And when you look back over the course of your life, no matter how many pieces and parts, right, that make that's comprised of your past and your present, you're going to find common threads. Okay, and these threads are perhaps some of your passions, some of your dreams, like I say, some of the things that you're drawn to. These are not random. As I said, your story, it's made up of those building blocks. These building blocks are keys to where you're headed, to your greater purpose, to your destiny. Okay. And remembering your story, its sum total is moving you, as I say, acting as a compass, driving you in the direction towards your ultimate purpose and your ultimate destiny, and ultimately the influence that you're designed to make right in this earth. To me, that is so powerful. And if you're like me and you have a spiritual background as well, you think about it in terms of what was the story that my creator, what story did my creator write about me, even before the foundations of the earth? These are all the very things that are driving us forward, right? So if you look at it in terms of nothing having been random in your life, that means all the good, all the bad, and all the ugly. All of this can bring your purpose into better focus if you see it through the right lens. Let me say that again. Nothing has been random, okay? Nothing in your life. All the good, all the bad, even the ugly, all of it can help bring your purpose into better focus, but only if you see it through the right lens. What do we do about the bad when we are remembering our story? Because this has to be a balanced talk. We can't just talk about all the wonderful and great things that we're created to do, that we're designed to do, that we dream about. You have to bring in the sum total. What do we do about the bad? What do we do about the ugly? How do we process that? And how does that work its way into my story? How does that work its way into my ultimate destiny and my purpose? That toxicity that you remember, those unfair things that may have happened to you, those things that may have played out in your life completely without your permission. All of these unproductive and seemingly destructive things, we have to view these and recognize these from a different angle. We're shifting from viewing the bad, the ugly, from the position of a victim to that of an overcomer. And that is how we shape that and we create the story that we're going to use to grow and build and help to propel us into our future. All that bad, all of that ugly, it all comes together, right? We're building. These are building blocks. We have to shift from the victim mentality to that of the overcomer. This is what I overcame. Not so much, this is what happened to me. Yes, it did. No, it was not fair. No, you didn't plan it that way. The better story is this is how I overcame. This is how I faced that. This is what I've become now. I'm still standing here. The second thing, though, we have to do is we have to pursue healing in those areas that are broken. Why? Because that bad, that ugly, we cannot allow these things to be roadblocks and obstacles as we're moving to our next. So we want to make sure that we pursue real wholeness, real healing, however that looks to you. For you, it may just be reading, it may be viewing videos, it may be relying on your support network, it may very well be therapy, whatever it takes for you to process some of that bad, some of that ugly, to help shift your perspective and to move towards wholeness and healing. That's what you've got to do. Okay? Because here's the deal, we hear people say, you can rewrite your story. We've all heard that, right? Many of us have said that. You can rewrite your story. I'm coming from a different angle. I'm not suggesting that we do a full rewrite of our story. We just talked about our bubbles, our past bubble, our present bubble, and our future bubble. I'm not talking about getting in there and mixing things up and changing your story, doing a full rewrite. What I'm talking about is understanding that our story is still being written. And as long as we simply make the decision to no longer allow other people and circumstances, past, present, or future, to dictate to us or to limit what we can do and where we can go, We are always a part of an amazing story that's still being written and still being told. And that's something I want you to hold on to. That was our second point. So, our first point, just as a recap, we're using our story as a shield, as a stabilizer, as a faith amplifier. Number two, our story is a compass, right? And it's moving us, propelling us in those paths, directing us towards our destiny. Number three, I think is so important for us to remember that our stories, your story, my story, it's actually serving as a template for others that are coming up behind you and others that are coming up behind me. Listen, each of our stories are so special and so unique. All the good, all the bad, all the ugly. Our stories are beautiful. They are unique. They are special. All of these things are coming together to form and create the best version of ourselves, the version that's going to go out and make a huge, lasting impact, right, on this earth and those around us. Though our stories are unique, many of the challenges of transition are similar. They just take on different shapes and forms. If I'm willing to share my story, and I'm not afraid to do so, that's going to serve as a template, as a help, as an encouragement to the next person that's coming along. You have no idea how many people are watching you. You have no idea how many people. We always talk about opposition and haters and things like that. All these things are real. But you have no idea how many people are actually watching you and waiting for you to win. Why? Because as you get their win, they believe more that they can get theirs. The key is we cannot be afraid to tell our story. We cannot be afraid to remember our story the way it is. Remember, I said we're not doing a rewrite. We're just allowing our story to be written continuously, day by day. If we're not afraid to tell our story, if we're not afraid to remember our story, and we use it in the way that it is designed, right? Not as something to be afraid of, not as something to be ashamed of, not as something to fear and forget, lock away, but to view it through the right and proper lens and use it as building blocks as we're moving to our next. Believe me, you will get to that next level. You and I both. And I'll be right here with you. Thank you so much for just having this conversation with me. I really hope you take a minute to think about this talk. Maybe watch it again. Think about your story. Think about how you're viewing your story. Think about how you can shift your perspective so that you can get everything that you need on this journey towards your next. Okay, thank you so much. I'll see you next time. Bye.